This video was recorded as a part of a live webinar series from Aberdeen Consulting. Please note that some of the features shown in this video may have changed and or have been updated since this was recorded.
We do want to welcome everyone to our event today. I'm Jim Blair from Aberdeen. Joining me from Aberdeen are TJ Horner, who will be presenting today, and Kyle Harritz will be moderating the questions you submit during today's event and reviewing those with TJ at the end of the presentation. Before we begin, in looking over the attendees for today's event, there are quite a few of you that already work with Aberdeen. We're very grateful that you could attend today's event. For the others attending who we do not work with, we just want to share a little bit about Aberdeen. We are an IT managed service provider that's been serving the greater Madison region for about 16 years. We provide outsourced IT management and end user support to small and mid-sized companies. Our team supports over 4,000 end users at over 140 companies that we work with. The majority of our clients are located in the Madison area, but we actually have remote offices and support those companies in 17 states. When the news broke about the need for everybody to social distance, we decided we wanted to offer up some free webinars to help ensure our clients are making the most of the tools at their disposal. Today's session is going to be the first of a two-part series. The second session is scheduled for next week, Wednesday. At that event, we'll be focusing on Microsoft Forms and automating event management with Power Automate. For those who signed up before Tuesday of this week, we manage the registration process in a manual fashion. Starting today, we used Power Automate to send out reminder emails about the event today, and we have it queued up to send you a survey for feedback after our session is over. Forms is very similar to SurveyMonkey and other online survey tools. It can be used to create surveys or to document checklists, work tasks. The forms and the data collected can be shared with everybody on your team when you connect forms to a Microsoft Teams. Power Automate is a workflow tool that Microsoft developed a few years ago. They recently renamed the product from Flow to Power Automate just in the last few months. They currently have over 400 prefabricated workflow templates at flow.microsoft.com. The most popular templates, the top 10, have anywhere from 100,000 to well over 400,000 people using those templates. In addition to the Teams Live events we're hosting, we'll also be hosting these two sessions to help our clients get the most use out of their existing Microsoft applications. Most end users barely make use of all the various things they can do with these applications. So if you want to learn more about Microsoft Outlook and OneNote, please plan to attend these sessions. We have partnered with Nancy from Successful Organizing Solution for these two events. For those who do not know Nancy, Nancy operates her own consulting and training firm for the last 20 years, where she focuses on helping end users maximize their use of many of the Microsoft Office products to be more efficient and better organized. Nancy is also certified in both Microsoft Outlook and OneNote. Her experience is on the end user side of the technology, where our team is focused on the back end of the technology. We do encourage everyone to ask questions in the Q&A for today's event. Kyle from Aberdeen will be moderating this, and in some situations, he may defer to TJ for a discussion at the end of the presentation. Please do not submit any questions in an anonymous mode, because if there is any follow-up we need to do after the event to answer your question, we will not know who submitted those questions. With that said, we're ready to get started. Here you go, TJ.
All right, thank you, Jim. Before we get started, I wanted to briefly touch on our approach to today's webinar. This is the latest in a series of successful Office 365 and security events we've hosted, stretching all the way back to our Lunch and Learns last year. Up until now, all of our events could be considered introductory level content, designed to make sense for any audience. I'd like to think of them as our Office 365 101 events. Today is the first of what I think of as a 200 level or an intermediate plus topic. Hopefully you've already signed up for part 2 of this series, where we'll be focusing on ways you can use Office 365 automation tools to streamline your live event production. In today's session, we're going to be exploring hosting a live event using Microsoft Teams and the related steps and activities required to be successful. A great live event relies on being familiar with the team's interface and general meeting operations, so we'll be focusing only on the new or different information you need to be successful. As Jim said, please feel free to ask any questions you would like throughout the event today. I'll try to address topical questions between slides or sections, and we'll address anything remaining at the end during our Q&A period. As far as, feel free to ask questions anonymously. If you do need feedback, we'll obviously need to know who you are. So what are we going to talk about today? A successful Teams live event has several important phases. We'll start with understanding live events and how they differ from a regular meeting. Then we'll talk about planning and pre-event steps you can incorporate into your processes, as well as the different options you have within a live event. Next, we'll walk through the meeting execution and production process and helpful information you can use to host your own webinars. Finally, we'll wrap things up with post-event tasks and concepts you should incorporate as part of your post-game process. While you will hear Teams live event several hundred more times today, it may be easier to think of them as what they are, a webinar. Teams live events give you the ability to create broadcast content for anyone, anywhere, using the familiar Teams tools. Just like a regular Teams meeting, you can have live events for the public, like we're doing here today, or limit them to only your organization or even just a restricted set of individuals. Using the Teams client, mobile or web interface, your attendees can participate in your event without additional licensing or costs. If you're already using other webinar tools like WebEx or GoToMeeting for your hosted events, Teams live events may be the perfect way to cut an unnecessary cost out of your monthly budget. You may be asking yourself, why not just give a big Teams meeting instead? Aren't they the same thing? As anyone who's ever attended a large unmoderated meeting before can probably tell you, it can be chaotic and frustrating, even at the best of times. The keys to consider are audience and intent. Is your audience large or very large? Is the intent of the gathering collaborative or informational? A live event or webinar format allows you to deliver content to your audience with few barriers and active controls for participation, management, and retention instead of a free-for-all collaboration meeting. First up, we're going to talk about planning and roles within a Teams live event. In addition to investigation and research time, we've had the opportunity to plan and execute several webinars using Teams live events. Over that time, we've identified several key concepts you can also use to make your events a success. Start with identifying your stakeholders and assigning them to live event roles. While you may successfully operate a Teams live event 100% solo, the process gets exponentially easier when you're able to delegate tasks to others. Next, you should stage content whenever possible. What does that mean? Well, identify what content you wish to present and ensure that it's complete and accessible to the entire live event team. A great place to start is a dedicated team or channel for events, so you can collapse all of your content to one place, easily collaborate, and then share it right from there. When you're first learning how to use live events, it's a great idea to run a few test events with your production team. This will allow you to verify your content, camera placement if you're using live feeds, lighting, sound, and make changes as needed beforehand. The last thing I'll mention is probably the most important lesson we've learned: start early. Scheduling time with stakeholders well in advance for planning, testing, and content review is a great way to ensure you have a smooth event. There are only a few designated roles in a Teams live event. The organizer role is an inherited right when you create a new live event. Organizers have full control over the features used in the meeting, as well as delegation of the producer and presenter roles. The organizer is who invites everyone else. The core function of a producer in a live event is to control the content being displayed to your audience. In addition to starting and stopping the stream, producers also have direct control over what video sources are sent live. The presenter role is for content providers. Presenters will share their camera or other content to be sent live by the producers. The organizer and producer roles are also technically presenters and can also share content the same way for broadcast. All roles can communicate in the event chat channel as well as moderate Q&A if that is enabled. So that means the standard meeting chat or participant list reflect the event team and not the external attendees. A quick note on platform support for event roles. As you can see on the chart, the desktop client, either Mac or PC, is required to control and operate a live event. There are several enhancements to this grid on the roadmap, including enhanced support for mobile and web capabilities, but the core focus for production will always be the desktop app. Linux is listed as an unsupported OS for live events, but I believe that might be out of date on Microsoft's site because the web version does work on the Linux platform. Next, we'll talk about scheduling live events and configuring event options. In your Teams calendar, select the New Meeting dropdown and then choose Live Event. Add the meeting title, date, time, just like you would for any other Outlook calendar appointment or Teams meeting. Using the Invite People to Your Event Group dialog, add your event team and assign their roles. The event group can consist of anyone inside or outside of your organization if you allow guests. As you may have seen at the top of that image, don't invite attendees at this point. You'll get a different link to share with them later. Anyone you invite with this link will actually be part of the event team. Next, you'll need to decide the access level to your event. Note that this can be changed later if you make a mistake. The first choice is the most restrictive. Not only must the attendees log in to access the meeting, they must also be directly invited. The second option still requires you to log into your Office 365 account, but the meeting itself is unrestricted. So in this case, org-wide means anyone in your company. The last option, the one we're using today, allows you to host a live event for anyone. And this provides a public link that anyone can join anonymously, which you've all seen today. When producing an event in Teams, you have access to the following options. The first set, control recording. All Teams produced events are automatically recorded, but you may choose to also provide that recording directly to attendees. This also allows them to pause, rewind, or even rewatch the event for up to 180 days from the time of recording. If you disable this function, the online DVR or on-demand feed is not available. Automatic captioning is currently in preview and allows you to select up to 6 different language files for output. These come in the standard captioning format and can be directly uploaded to Microsoft Stream, YouTube, or other video platforms. The attendee engagement report records a CSV of useful information for everyone who attends your webinar. This can allow you to gauge engagement if people were having issues or if half the audience left after slide number 6. The Q&A feature is optional, but almost always recommended. It's the feature that allows you to host the moderated chat environment for your event. This feature also outputs a CSV file with all of the questions and responses at the end, but we'll get into both those features more a little bit later. Once the event is scheduled, be sure to make any changes to it in Teams. Don't edit your event in Outlook. The process you just completed is only for your event team. You must use the attendee link for your audience. The process can be as simple as posting a link to your website or including it in an email. In part 2 of this webinar series, we'll get into the best way to frame that content and automate that process. Review your event configuration and event team. You can make any adjustments to staff or roles anytime you like before the event goes live. In fact, I think you may even be able to do that live now. Again, never forward this appointment to attendees. You will not have a good time. We speak from experience. The join meeting link here is effectively a traditional Teams meeting invite, including the audio conferencing option if you have that available. It is possible to have a presenter participate using audio only dialed in through the phone if they need to. This is great if someone's stuck remotely, maybe in a hotel that needs to be able to contribute to your live event, but doesn't have internet access or a way to log in correctly. Before we move on, I wanted to review a few additional notes on scheduling and planning. Plan to have at least one member of your event team in the lobby. Using the announcements feature, you can communicate with anyone who may have joined early before the event goes live. This won't impact your event, but it's always nice to welcome attendees to confirm they're in the right place. Have introductory content ready to go live around 5 minutes ahead of your event start time at a minimum. A simple welcome slide works fine, and you saw an example of that today, but you can be as creative as you like. Just remember that as soon as you start the live event, both the recording feature and audio are broadcast to attendees. Lastly, make sure you get your pre and post-event meetings on your schedules. Avoid using the live event as your meeting location. While it will work mechanically, it's best not to tempt fate and risk starting your event before you're ready or unintentionally broadcasting audio to the audience. Next up, we're going to dive into producing an event.
Hey, TJ, you got time for a quick question here?
Absolutely. What are we talking about?
All right, so in regards to the attendee list, is there a way to make that attendee list public so that it's, not anonymous the way that you would have a traditional meeting?
Yes and no. The attendee report, the CSV that I mentioned earlier, will show if people logged in with accounts or if they logged in anonymously. There is no way to show that currently live, and there's no way to show that to other attendees. So there'd never be a point where an attendee to a live event will see the list of other attendees. If you truly needed to mandate logins, you would need to use either the organization-wide or the invite-only version of the live event. And that would require logins, which would make everyone not anonymous.
Thank you.
No problem. All right. The producer role is significant for several reasons. The most important of which is that they alone control when the event starts and ends and who goes on air. Producers are also inherently presenters, possessing all the capabilities of the presenter role, including sharing their own content, moderating Q&A, and managing the reports and recordings. The producer role has a different interface than a normal meeting. There's a lot of stuff packed onto this screen, so let's take a quick spin around this view. Probably the most important button that can only be used twice is right here. Events only start when a producer clicks the button and end when they click it again. There's no backsies. Live events cannot be restarted. In the top right, you'll see the familiar glyphs to those found in a regular meeting. These correspond exactly to the meeting tools except for the Q&A button, which is currently only available as an option in live events. We'll talk a little bit more about that later. Next, over on the left, we have the status bar. The little dot to the left of the meeting name shows you that recording status. To the right, you can see the current number of attendees in your event, as well as the current status. In this example, the event is in pre-live and has not yet started. Straight down from there, we have the event queue. This lets you stage the next piece of content and then using the Send Live button, push that content to your attendees. Over on the left, you'll see two options for your viewport. This allows you to optionally show a smaller secondary camera view along with the main content view. And that'll just be a vertical bar on the right side of the screen. The Teams produced meetings are limited in their production capability at this time. If you truly needed massive multi-camera support and other options, you would need to use externally produced tools. Next door, we have the live event panel. This reflects the live view your audience will experience. While we're here, I will mention that at any time after you start your event and do not have content being presented, your attendees will see this placeholder. And no, I will not be demonstrating that today. For Teams produced events, your limiting resolution factors will be the capabilities of webcams for presenters, the resolution of your computer desktop, and any other content that you might have. For streaming purposes, you should use content on and optimize for 1080p at a minimum to ensure your content is crisp and clear, and your recordings have longevity when the capabilities of the streaming functions increase. The streaming delay times noted here are inherent to the streaming process. You'll see that with any type of streaming tool. Teams produced events do not yet support a customized stream delay. Once the event goes live, any active presenter mics are hot. All event staff should practice self-muting whenever they are not actively presenting content. This works the same way as it does in a regular Teams meeting. There's the little rectangle showing what's being shared and the enable video, enable audio, and hang up buttons. Let's jump back into the producer view to talk about sharing content. Just like when you're sharing content in a meeting, the bottom of the display shows a producer what content is available to them for queuing. In this example, we have a presenter webcam on the left, the producer's camera in the middle, and on the right, we have shared content. In this case, it's coming from presenter number 1. As a producer, you simply select which content you want to queue up and then click the Send Live button. Content must be deliberately sent live to show up for attendees. The only exception to this rule is that if sharing was started and stopped, it will resume broadcasting and could be something you would see if the active presenter, say, disconnected from your event unexpectedly. And that's the time where they would see this event will continue momentarily. Any presenter may override another by sharing their content. This may be changing at some point this year, but it's important to know how it behaves today to avoid disruptive events in your meetings. And what that means is right now I'm sharing this PowerPoint, I'm controlling this meeting, I'm acting as both producer and presenter. But if Jim or Kyle were to start sharing, they would override this and start sharing their content to all of you. The live camera feed limits are moving from 4 to 9 later this year. It's part of the parity with what you'll see in regular meetings. Please note that these extra feeds are only for cameras right now, not additional sharing content. These 2 items are the only limitations of Teams-produced meetings or Teams-produced events specifically that bother me today. If you want to produce an event with advanced content mixing, multiple audio sources, multiple camera controls, you must use an external production application or system, transitioning what should be a user-friendly environment into a professionals-only tier of expertise. Microsoft has heard this feedback and is working on expanding these features in the app experience. However, their current guidance remains to use external production tools if you require that level of content control. Now that we've seen the producer-only role, let's talk about some of the other controls and options in a Teams live event. In the center are your normal familiar meeting controls, giving you access to the same set of details that you would see in a traditional meeting. Of note here is that the meeting chat and participants tabs are internal to your event staff. The chat is not shown to attendees in the Q&A panel. Please note that if you are conducting an internal live event, that chat could be available to staff that have the appropriate permissions. As a meeting organizer, you may also remove a participant from the event if needed by right-clicking them and giving them the boot. They will be forcibly ejected from the meeting and barred from rejoining. The icon on the right may be used to bring up the technical details of your stream for troubleshooting or review purposes. Think of it as the Stats for Nerds button on a YouTube screen. It tells you the delay, the latency of your camera feed, the throughput, how much bandwidth that you're consuming with your uploads and downloads, etc. Lastly, the icon on the left is the Q&A panel. This is where you or your other moderators go to interact with attendees submitting questions. The panel that this brings up is very similar to what you're seeing as an attendee. In the Q&A panel, you have access to all the tools necessary to control and interact with your audience via chat. Q&A can be open or closed at any time throughout the event. Although it is important to note that Q&A must be open for you to use the announcements feature. Closing comments is useful before the event or during intermissions if your moderation team steps away to perform other tasks. This would be great if you have an exceptionally long meeting that will run the whole day or a whole afternoon, and you'll say, we're breaking for lunch. You close down comments as a show of no one is here right now to answer you. Announcements are a great way to keep your audience informed without disturbing the presentation. As you've seen already in today's event, there have been several announcements made by the event team. Only announcements and published content or published questions are shown to your event attendees. Lastly, when posting as a moderator or answering questions, all posts are anonymized, as you can see here. The event team view, however, does show who on your team replied. So you know Kyle answered that question or Jim answered that question. As you can see here, each queue, the new, published, and dismissed, all have unique indicators to show how many messages are present. Your moderation team will be looking for messages in new to deal with, while your presenters may keep an eye on the published queue to bring those comments up for discussion during the process. Checking on the queue, we see a new question and available options. If you choose to reply to the question before it is published, that interaction remains private even if the original question is eventually published. This can be used to clarify the question, maybe get contact details, or provide other feedback before it's published. If you later publish that question to the event, you can post a public answer directly using all of the available information. Dismissing the comment isn't a permanent exile. Questions can be brought back into the new queue if necessary using the restore feature. In this example, you will see that the comment was answered and the question dismissed without being presented to the event publicly. On the published queue, you can see that reply no longer has the word private included, reminding you that comments will go directly to all attendees. Each message may also be summarily deleted if needed using the garbage can icon. And yes, that is a thumbs up next to the garbage bin. Event staff and attendees can smash that like button on comments if they so choose. Attendees can also use that sorting filter where it says most recent to filter by popularity instead of time. In the previous slides, we've talked about ways you can plan, schedule, execute, and control your live meeting. Now that your event is concluded, what's next? The first thing you should do after concluding an event is to briefly meet with your team to review everything. This should be something that was implicitly scheduled by the organizer. Keep it to 15 minutes. There's no time like the present, and discussing what went right and what may not have with immediacy is supremely beneficial feedback. Use this time to evaluate your event and content emotionally. Gut reactions are useful here to capture the mood of both your presenters and your attendees. If there was a prevailing sentiment, you want to know about it right here. Ask the hardest, easy question. How do you think it went? This is also the time to send out your post-event communication. We use Microsoft Forms to collect our survey data, but you can use any tool set you already have in place. Feedback is critical to improvement, and the only way to fail here is not asking. Automating this part of the process can ensure that it's always done timely and accurately. And it just so happens we have a part 2 event next week to help you do just that. The next step is to download and process the provided reports. The Q&A report is a verbatim list of all the activity in your attendee chat. I convert the provided CSV files and format them for readability and then post them back to our training channel and teams for other staff to review. This data can be used to improve your presentation materials, execute follow-up with specific attendees, or take other actions as needed. Thus far, I've been manually processing all of our attendee reports, formatting and sorting the data into meaningful patterns for review with the team. But this type of data is perfect for use with any automation processes you may already have. Whether it's Power Automate and Power BI, advanced ETL tools like Domo, or simply uploading to messaging tools like ActiveCampaign or MailChimp, you can and should integrate this information source into your management process. The next thing to handle is what, if anything, you want to do with the recorded event data. As we saw at the beginning of the presentation, the recording is available for download up to 180 days, after which point it's never to be seen again. So you should execute this early. With a little formatting, the attendee report can show you a picture of who connected to your event and when. In this example, you can see the various status changes for Jim and I during a recent webinar, and the note that we are event team members versus attendees. When producing a public event, anyone who chooses to attend anonymously will still have details recorded, just no email address or name. They'll just be identified by what they call the session ID, which is unique to each person. That lets you record and report on accurate attendance details, no matter what status they came in. As you can see in this example Q&A report, Jim made the announcement message, and then I answered a question posted by a user who was anonymous. Jumping back into what to do with that video, our media management process is twofold. Firstly, I download our live event video and drop it into our webinar channel in Microsoft Stream. This ensures we retain a permanent copy of the video data for later use. I add tags and descriptive data so that it's easily accessible by anyone in our organization. This is also something that is directly linked to our training channel for teams. You can choose what security and privacy to use based on the content and audience specific to your events. So if it was a private event, you don't have to share it to a channel. You can have it either private only or only shared with the people who attended the meeting. Things rarely go perfectly, so you may not want to distribute the raw data file to your audience. If that is the case, take this opportunity to polish your video and content before uploading it to its final public destination. Be that something like YouTube, directly onto your website, or even back into Microsoft Stream as a production version. The last thing on our list is to circle back with your team and review your survey feedback and results. Typically, a few days or a week after your event is a good timeline to make happen. These can be longer sessions depending on what needs to be covered, 30 to 60 minutes, depending on what you want to do. Unlike that initial debrief meeting, the goal here is to improve your processes, improve your content, and your delivery with real data. How many people attended? How many people stayed until the end? What does the survey say? What can we do better next time? We've kind of covered a lot of items today, but there's still a bit more we can share with you about the future of Teams. Microsoft has invested significant time and effort into improving their communication process over the last few years. One of the great additions was to put more of their roadmap and planning information out in the world. I've collected a few of the neat things coming to Teams and Stream in 2020, hopefully. Coming soon, Stream will gain the ability to directly capture your screen, microphone, and webcam, and make light edits to the resulting video all in one go. This improvement is part of a general enhancement to the Stream product, but I think you can see how these features might dovetail into the Teams live event production process as well. This, in theory, would allow the web to be a presenter platform. Another welcome addition to Teams is native polling and checklist creation. That's one of those key features that other meeting platforms or other webinar platforms already have that Teams needs to get parity with. Another welcome addition is adding more triggers and Power Automate features that tie directly into Teams. While we won't be covering some of the newly announced features in next week's part 2, those are all things that will come to fruition over the course of 2020 and into 2021. The raise hand feature is another great addition to the Teams meeting to help apply just a little organization to the chaos of a larger gathering. This is a common feature in some of the other more established meeting tools, so it's good to see that that's coming soon. What this will do is let you mute everyone in the meeting and force them to hit the raise hand and be acknowledged before they can speak. The next one is another big oof initially, but it's great that it's being addressed. Once this feature goes live, any presenter will be able to actively send their system audio to the event, just like you currently can in a meeting, not just what's picked up by their microphone sources. Currently, you would need to use external production methods to have this feature, and it would allow you to, say, play a video or have audio embedded in your PowerPoint, currently things that in a live event don't broadcast to the attendees. Thank you for your time today. I hope I was able to give you some new insight on a great tool included in Office 365. Teams live events are a great way to put your content and ideas in front of audiences anywhere. And at this point, I will hand things back over to moderator Kyle to play us out.
This is our contact information. Obviously, if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to us. You can check us out at Aberdeen.com. So Jim.Blair, TJ.Horner, or Kyle.Harritz at Aberdeen.com. And then if you want to follow us on social media, please feel free to do so. We do have 3 different social media platforms that we use. We use LinkedIn, which is more of a business to business, where we do share some information about security topics. The same thing with our Twitter account, Aberdeen Consult on Twitter. We only post security advisory notices there. And then you can also check us out and learn more about our team at Aberdeen Consulting on Facebook. We do want to thank everybody for joining us today. We hopefully you got some great information out of this. I know we were really excited about doing today's event, and I obviously, hopefully see you guys, at the next event.
Thanks,
Thank you,
everyone.
everyone. Have a great day.